0% interest for 6 to 18 months, up to 150, if not 250,000, literally with no docs, no collateral. How to get up to 2 million, 5 million incredibly fast. How about an SBA loan? What about the bank rates today, or the prime rates is what I'll be jumping into and showing you in this video as much as I can what that entails, along with some of the other factors like getting prepayment discounts and a few other areas. If you're in here right now, please give me a hashtag live or a hashtag replay if you'll be watching this later on the replay. But I have a lot to discuss with you and to go over what this 0% interest for 6 to 18 months is, as well as the current prime rates today. And also, more importantly, how you should be looking at getting a type of a weekly, a monthly repayment. And why do people end up getting weekly instead of a monthly? That's what I wanted to discuss as well. So let's get the elephant out of the room here and discuss the prime rates. We have now shifted into 7.5% where we were recently. So by 0.5 points or percent from the 7% we were just at the other day. Now we are at prime rates of 7.5%. And I'm also going to include how that affects getting an SBA loan up to 5 million, even up to 350,000 with an express loan, and a few other things. So right now, as you know, with the inflation and where we're leading into the next year, and I said this earlier this week as well as the last couple of weeks, that we could be seeing an interest spike by mid or end of December, and here we are now on the 15th effective, and at 7.5% prime rates. What does that mean for you? If you can't even qualify for a bank loan, it's one thing to go to a bank and get funding, and it's another thing to go to a private lender. And let's say you started at 7.5%. That's not what you're going to begin with or get initially. It's 7.5% plus like 1 to 6.75%, depending on the type of service you get, or 6.5%. So it's 7.5 plus an additional amount. And if you're looking for an SBA loan right now, you guys should have gone in on this and locked your rate in before. If I've spoken to you, if you submitted a questionnaire form and I've tried to get a hold of you, but you've been negligent, you've been that business owner who doesn't have it together, I mean, hey, I tried to make you aware of that the interest rates are going up. And for those of you who have an interest rate that was locked, we may have to make an adjustment now because of those spikes. And so now is the time to get in. Usually if you're getting an SBA loan from 350 to 5 million, you can expect there to be prime rates plus about 1 to 2.75 or so percent, sometimes up to 3.75. And so if you want to lock yours in at the most 9.75, and then sometimes you see about up to 10.75 or so. It depends on variable and fixed interest rates. Variable can, in this market, sometimes be a little less than the fixed rate, but it can sometimes flip-flop depending on your financials and what you have in your circumstances. Now, if you're looking for an SBA loan from like 20,000 to about 350,000, anything 50,000 and below, prime rates at 7.5 plus about 6.5%. So you're already getting close to that 14% range with just something underneath 50,000. Now 50,000 to 350,000, it can be plus 4.5. So 7.5 plus 4.5, 4.75. So you're getting somewhere upwards of 12%, 50 to 350,000. So for those of you right now who are thinking, is this even attractive enough? Well, with an SBA loan, you can get up to 3, 5, 7 years. With an express loan in a lot of cases, sometimes 10, but the majority is 3, 5, 7 years. Now, if you're looking past 7 years, that bucket fills into a 350 to 5 million range. So not to go too far off on a tangent on going on all types of what prime rate is affecting, just know that if you're an early entrance to get an SBA loan, yet you didn't lock your rate in, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the end of the world and then you should give up on it. It just means you need to recalibrate. Maybe don't think it through too much because you're still getting a relatively low interest rate compared to everything else out in the market that you could get. And you're giving up like a 10-year up to 25-year with real estate. So keep that in the back of your mind. Other types of services like unsecured term loans and some of those, it's going to be a little bit more costly to get financing, especially your total cost of financing. Now, I know we add these early payment discounts, prepay discounts that are available for each and every lender is different. So we could do the total cost of what you have or towards the interest of what you have remaining on that. And we can get you to pay it off earlier, maybe between 90 to 120, if not less than 90 days, or what that is. Then it could help you save more money. And if you didn't need all that time, then it'll be in your best interest. Now, going away from the prime rates, just know that now is your entrance point. Excuse me. And I'm going to leave a video when it's on the replay. I'll likely put it up on YouTube down below if you guys would like to learn more about the SBA loan up to 350, from 350 to 5 million. The 7A, there's 504 content, but the 7A is the most popular one right now. And we're even doing a lot of commercial real estate, CRE loans. And if that's something you're interested in, I know I have a quite variety of business owners who already have their offers, have taken their offers. Those of you who are kind of in the fence, not committed. And that's a problem most business owners have, is they're not committed to a process. So for those of you who submit a questionnaire form on my site, I would greatly appreciate hearing any kind of feedback. It could be something very simple and little, and I know you get busy, but when I expect some kind of feedback and you just disappear, nobody needs to be dealing with that energy and time. That's not good. And so going away from those prime rates, just know that the market next year, we could have another increase in those interest rates. We could be at 8.5% beginning of next year. Not even mid, like still in the first quarter, 2 to 3 months in, we could be having a higher increase spike in interest. So what does that mean? Well, if you're looking for an SBA loan, even a bank loan, you won't be seen as quote unquote, I guess, credible enough to give you a lower interest rate. So what those banks are looking at, the creditors are looking at, what are the other people in different fields, like the private lenders, looking at when they're determining your interest rates. And your risk factor has a lot to do with it. You have a higher risk, higher interest rate. Lower risk, lower interest rate. Hi, welcome in. How are you doing? So now let me transition away from the SBA loan, the prime rates, and overall affecting the market in terms of certain products. It even affects like asset-based. You're looking for accounts receivables. You're probably going to do prime rates plus about 2%, 2 to 2.5% on accounts receivables, if not a little bit more. So you're looking closer to that 10% range as where we were a long time ago, where you could probably get into like 2%, at 5%, 7%. Now you're looking closer to 10% plus at a minimum. So you always have to think about, does it make sense for me to get a longer term? Can I pay this off in 12 months? Do I need to pay it off in 15 months? What seems more adjustable for you? Now let me spend a little bit of time on this subject, and then I'll get into the 0% interest. And I would greatly appreciate you guys. I don't say this enough. Please share the room with others so you feel we'll get value out of it. Let's bring people in, welcome them in, and say, hey, I got this guy here who I've been watching, or this is my first time. He seems credible, legitimate. And again, I'm a broker and I'm an expert at what I do. I work with people of all backgrounds and industries. I don't shame anybody. I don't judge anybody. I don't harass or heckle. That's the one. Excuse me. I was going to say hackle or tackle. I don't do none of that. No phony stuff. I am a very specific person with people, introverted. That's what you want from someone, instead of them talking your ears out. So somebody who listens. Now, let's transition into why, and this question was asked today in one of my meetings. I already knew the answer to it, just somebody else was answering it. So this other agent or broker, I don't know exactly their position, but they asked the question on, they have a client who wanted a monthly repayment. They weren't looking for bi-weekly, weekly, or daily repayments. They possibly knew they could afford or they could get those. And so the answer, as I knew, was going to be about every underwriter. Even I look at it because I pre-underwrite files. If I look at bank statements before they go to the lender, I'll look at them and say, how much are they keeping in their account per day, per week, by week, per month? So it breaks down to a day by day. And then that amount, we see how much you have at the remaining end of the week. And so if I'm seeing you're only keeping like $2,000 at the end of the week, and so next week you might have less, and then the next week after that, and then after 4 weeks, you only have $6,000 total left in your account, or whatever remaining. The question I am asking, as well as the lender, is how much do they get to keep in their account? And if you don't keep enough of it, if it's not a strong average daily bank balance, average monthly bank balance, and that's what the lender, myself, is looking for, is how much money are you keeping in your account what actually rolls over to the next week after next week after, and then into the next months. And so some days you may have 1,000, or weeks you have 1,000, then you have 2,000, and then you're back to 500. And that's how the market works. We're actually protecting you, believe it or not, and I'll get into that in a moment. So if you're weak on keeping money into your account, which a lot of business owners right now, let's just be honest, they do. But if you're that person who does like 5,000, 20,000 a day, keeps more in their account than what they withdraw, you're depositing more than what you withdraw is another thing. You're keeping more in your account per day, per week, per month. So we go and say, hey, they have strong average daily bank balances. They have strong average monthly bank balances. So when we look at everything and the numbers make sense, we go, yeah, this person can't afford to have a monthly repayment structure. The other person can't. And usually you get a weekly and or a daily, sometimes bi-weekly, depending on that service. But don't expect to get a monthly repayment on a revenue-based loan. That meaning what? If you're looked at just of your bank statements, you're looked at some of your financials if necessary, and it's non-collateralized. So the lender assumes 100% of the risk. They don't have any collateral to collect from you if you were to default. There are other ways, but that's why a personal guarantee is needed, and you just can't avoid those, especially with like business credit cards. For the majority of the time when you begin, if you don't have that profile, then they're not going to give it to you. But you got to work your way in, like anything. And so that's what I mean by, and I put a few notes here just to make sure that I don't forget to mention some of them. And I believe I covered it all without even looking at it earlier as much. So yeah, they're seeing how much you have in your business bank account primarily. Yeah, they can see your personal account if you go to a personal account lender, but that's very small. And you usually want to have a business checking account, of course. And so we're going to see how long you have the money sitting in your account. And some days you can have a couple of 500, the other one you have 1,500, 2,000. And so you can't afford to make that monthly repayment. You're just going to end up defaulting. You're going to end up getting in collections. And just think about what you're already paying on a monthly repayment. You have bills to pay. You have credit cards to pay. You have mortgages to take care of. You have things in your personal life that you're already paying monthly. You have maybe student debt if you haven't gotten that forgiven or where you ever are in that process. There are a lot of things that accumulate, and you have to think about it and go, can I afford to take another 4,500 or whatever it is per month once on a lump sum payment? You're paying one lump sum payment at the end of the month, as opposed to keeping you more safe and secured and saying, hey, we can do this weekly. Bi-weekly is a little bit more of a risk. But weekly, we can determine what you're doing in sales. We can determine how much you're keeping in your account, for how long you're keeping. And we're looking at that. I'm looking at that before anything goes over. So I already kind of more or less know what's happening. And so that's why from a week to week, we can actually help you. We can adjust. And if you ever have some kind of an issue making the payment, don't just default. Have a conversation with me so I can connect you again with a lender, or I can give you their information so you can reach out to them. However, it needs to be communicated. And you can say, hey, can I have, I'm having a bit of trouble right now with something that just came up, and maybe it wasn't out of your control. Maybe it was just a temporary thing. But until we hear the reason, don't suspect that you just can't make the payment and you can't just reach out for help. We'll say, hey, we can try to restructure this and lower the payment a little bit, maybe give you a little bit of a cushion for about a week or two or whatever you need time with. And so we can work with you on that. Not everybody will, but that's why you also get your foot in the door to work with them. If they don't see you necessarily making the payments on time, like, why should we give you enough time? And you reached out too late. We could help. We possibly could. It's not always a given, but you will never know until you ask that question. Let me come up to the comments. And again, that's going to round up. I'm going to try to get into the prepayment discounts right now and why is that not so important. But understand that, again, weekly is there to protect you. I would prefer it weekly myself. Daily, depends if I'm in a position to. Cash flow positive, I don't want to go backwards. And a lot of us look at that as a negative, and it isn't. Everybody's in a different position, and sometimes you have to use that temporarily, or you go repair your credit. If you're underneath a 600 credit, a lot of the times you're getting these daily payments to start off with. And in this market, a 600 and above opens the door for weekly repayments, but more or less 625, 650 is going to really increase your odds, and then your revenue increases those odds, of course, and the time in business and the fluctuations we have to be careful about, and making sure we can't even get you on a weekly repayment, because if you're fluctuating way too much, non-sufficient funds, overdrafts, you're taking money into your account, out of your account that you don't even have to withdraw from, but you still are given that money and it rolls over, yeah, you're in a situation to be put in an uncomfortable position. Let's just say that yourself, and then from us, what we have to look at. Another thing too, I have people a lot of the time who go, hey, can I just open up a new business checking account, maybe with a new bank and then a new entity? I changed my name and everything, and that will work temporarily. Not a lot of times, but it could work temporarily, but we're going to catch that. Even if you don't come a second round, we'll find out and we'll see, okay, we'll terminate this and you're going to have to give the money back, especially if it's non-collateralized. Collateralized, even a harder play you're putting yourself into. So just changing entities, it's still your name underneath those entities, unless it were someone else that hadn't defaulted and underneath their credit. So they're not the ones in collections and they're not the ones dealing with all of this. You need funding for your business. I think you filled out my questionnaire. Did you or did you not? What type of business are you in too? How do you get $5 million with 0% down? Are you looking to purchase an existing business? Is that what you're asking? Or what are your plans? Construction loan? Hi James, welcome in. I'll get to you in just a second. $5 million with 0% down. I mean, if you're looking for a business acquisition, franchise acquisition, whatever that is. Oh, real estate? Oh, commercial real estate? Quite possibly is what we're talking about. If you're looking at, look, there's no way. You're looking at 100% financing. Nothing down. That's not going to exist. And it ends up becoming more expensive. Don't believe people out there who tell you, oh, we can get you 100%. They're going to bait and switch you. And then you're going to find out you got to put 20 to 40% down. Traditional commercial real estate financing, 20 to 40% down with a private lender. But where everybody's going right now, and I have a lot of clients right now, actually, that's a very popular and in-demand service, is the commercial real estate through the SBA 7A loan. That's what you'll want to do, Apple, is through the SBA 7A commercial real estate. And I have like the best SBA 7A CRE loan lender in the market. And it's one of those exclusive partnerships that I have that not a lot of people have access to. And it's just because I have a network of people that I know and they trust me and they know how I work. But I won't name the company. I almost did now. But if that's something you want to get in touch with, I'm actually collecting documents from another individual here soon, from his PFS and BS statements and a few things through the application process. But that SBA 7A CRE loan, you're going to need to find a 10% down payment. You gotta. I mean, what do you mean you don't want to put anything down? How does that make any sense? Your loan to value, your loan to cost, all this stuff just needs to add up. And if there isn't any of that, it just doesn't make sense. And they also do it so you can put some skin in the game. That's a bigger purpose of why they ask for a 10% down payment. On what the SBA guarantees is one thing, but you got to put the skin in the game. And this is why they want people with more experience who are applying for an SBA 7A CRE loan. If you're completely new to this, you will get more scrutinized. You will go through that application process. You will be asked questions. I will usually be on a third party. We'll get on a three-way call. And there's things I communicate with you because the lender wants me to. And I can hear things and I know how it all goes. And then at times it's just you and the lender, you and the underwriter. That's how it can go. In other forms, we communicate. But if any of you in here who are looking for that, it's better than the 20 to 40%. Wouldn't you agree? Like 10% you get with an SBA 7A CRE loan. 51% usually owner-occupied is what you want. And if you didn't have to put 20 to 40% down, would that make you happy? What do? You go find that 10%. Of course, we're going to have to see everything, the appraised value, loan to cost, AR, everything we have to look at first, and to see what your actual down payment amount, mathematically speaking, would end up coming out to be. But don't be discouraged. There's ways of getting that. Do you have an existing business? Because what you could do, Apple, and anybody else in here, this is a pro tip. I get these things done all the time. People will come to me and they go, I don't have a down payment. Like right now, I have a guy who is unfortunately only qualifying for, like, he needs an equipment loan, but he's only qualifying for less than $10,000. Let's put it there, and he's gonna have a huge down payment because of his credit and because of other issues. But there's a lender out there that's willing to work with him, but the down payment is the issue. Now, if he had stronger bank statements, if he had the collateral or even the credit to back him up, we could get them a better amount in a down payment. So you may be in a situation where you have the bank statements to back it up. Maybe you needed that 10% and we got you that 10% from that. Or we got you it from a personal/startup loan, or we got it from a traditional MCA or a hybrid cash advance, all revenue determinant on your business. Or if you have the collateral to give up, cash out refinance, you have equity invested, any kind of liquidity that you can take away from, this will end up serving you a lot of good. And this is why I tell every business owner, always be prepared when you're investing in any kind of property. Doesn't matter if it's a single family, fix and flip, multifamily. If you don't have a down payment to put down, always be ready for any kind of down payment. And this is what comes back to the whole equation on why you should have business credit cards, because you can liquidate the cash on those credit lines and use them for several investments. If you would have had access to credit cards of about $100,000 or whatever it is, then you would have had that down payment to use. Wouldn't you agree? And so what it comes to is, hey, do you have friends and family? Do you have a chance to getting that service? I have people right now who are trying to dispute and take care of their bankruptcies because they weren't qualifying for personal loans, personal/startup loans. I could show you guys, but it's very confidential. I can't get into it. I can express it, and I can actually bring it up on my screen here and not talk about those individuals per se them, but to the behavior that 10% down payment, they put 90% in, where's your 10%? And you could tell me you have a $5 million property, but when I ask people, do you have a down payment of at least 10% with the SBA? No. Okay. And so what you do is then try to find somebody, and that's not the way to do it. You try to go find somebody, you're going to nickel and dime them. Well, this guy told me this. No, I could try to find it like this. There's probably some kind of seller financing and I can get it at 100%. Be real, because I'm an expert. If you're going to go against me from what I do every day on a daily basis, I got deals done today, a lot of them, and they were ready. And they knew what they were getting, but people just don't understand that. When they first meet me, they're like, this guy's just a bunch of fluff. Get to know my story. It's in the bio, and I'll also leave it in the description when you're watching this later on YouTube. You need funding for your business and you are new, so hopefully that helped you out. In the bio, link click personal/startup loan, the fourth button, it should be that one. And there's the credit line hybrid program, should be one of the lower ones. Those are a great few options on a startup funding solution outside from grants, microloans, because those take some time in this market. Can you mentor me with funding, as in show you different ways and how to get funding? I mean, I could do that, but I won't necessarily be on phone calls with people, only because a lot of people, I'm not saying you, but a lot of people pretend. They just want to seek information. They're just adding more to their Excel spreadsheets. I know a lot of real estate investors specifically who do that, and I don't budge with them. I don't give them my energy or time. Maybe over an email, over a text message, that's different. But I can't be that exposed to someone if it's just going to end up being that way. You're met a month later down the road. It's like, why did I look back on this and I go, why did I even give them 15 minutes of my time over a call? That's what they wanted, but realistically what they were wanting is just to gather more information. And I'm not going to be just the information guy. And I'm not saying you have to 110% commit just because you're gathering information doesn't mean that. No, but when I work with people, I'm going to go the extra mile, and I don't want that, okay, they just were here 1 second and gone the next. Right now, I have people who submit my questionnaire form, and I try to contact this individual, and I'm not going to say their name here. You know who you are. I've tried to call you. I didn't want to be in that position. I even said it in the voicemail. I'm sure you don't want to hear from me like this. Pretty much. I don't want to be in this position to have to leave you another voicemail. I didn't have to leave you that. But you had given me, nothing. I don't know what you're doing. I can follow up with you via an email, but it shows you're being unresponsive. You may open up the email, but you get busy. Everybody gets busy. If this were important enough, if I were important enough to you, it's what it doesn't show. It's that I'm not important enough to that person. It's not about their business and their baby. It's that I'm not important enough to them. And so for those of you who do matter and I matter to you, I appreciate you. Thank you for following through and sticking with me, because I do believe there isn't anybody else out there that can do what I do and the connections that I have and what is possible. I do want to transition into some of the early payment discounts, but let me get into this. James, trucking, yes. Very high risk industry, hard to get financing for right now. I kind of went away from trucking, to be honest, for a little bit, because it's just a very high volatile industry, and everything with the cost coming up. Like a lot of businesses are going out of business and then they're fluctuating with their monthly deposits. It's just chaos. And there's just too much of this. And even after I've explained to them via email or whatever method that is, they're just very like yappy and like, well, I got this and I did this and I'll get back to you. And they never get back to you. Some do because they're more truthful or more honest and more reliable. But others just, it's hard because the cost. But right now, if you can surpass all that and come out of it when everything does drop and when it drops, you're going to be good. You're going to be setting yourself up for better success long term. I know that. You are looking for startup business funding, looking at $50,000 in real estate investing. Okay. I did mention this. I'm not sure if you heard of me, but bio, link, click, fourth bond, personal/startup loan, or down below in that link tree, you can see the credit line hybrid. Those are two fantastic startup programs. You have microloans, you have grant opportunities, you have a whole bunch of them available, but some of those are much harder to get approved for, especially right now, because of how many people are actually going to get them. You just have to have a better story and then a business plan walking into those. So I don't want to spend a lot of time on the real estate. Let me transition over. I can get into that subject for hours, but let me get away from that right now. But for $50,000, and there's a real estate form, guys, in the bio you guys can fill out. I want to know if you're serious. It sounds like it, but I don't believe people. Like, I don't say that because I'm an introvert. I say that because people in this industry, they nickel and dime, or they say one thing, they do another. I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying the general consensus, and I'm not an idiot. Like, I'm an academically studious person. I'm an observer. I listen and I observe more than I ever speak. Contrary, because this is helpful information. I think video content helps. But for those of you out there who are like pretending to fill out a form and then just disappear, you guys are the worst. And I'm not saying that like holding back. I'm saying that if that hurts, that hurts. I'm not saying that to be negative or mean, and I hardly ever do this and say it. But you guys are a lot of waste of time. And it's not because I dislike you maybe it is your personality that gets in your way, because like I said, your frustrations, your ego, your stubbornness, all these things do get in the way, especially when we go to an application. But if you want to work with the best, you don't just submit something and then just let it hang out. And then you just go and see what else is out there. It doesn't work that way, and you have to be careful about shopping around. I have people right now who are on the dark web, fraudulent activity. They have their social security number out on risk, and a lot of crap just happens in this industry. What is the no-doc loan? And then I'll get into the early payment discounts on some of these. So, good question. This is not a loan. Just so you guys know, I know we're familiar with hearing the word loan or line of credit. And that's what it is. It's a credit line. So no docs, no bank statements. It's a true startup program, but you have to have strong credit. Oh, there's that. No, it's not a catch. Get over yourself. The catch is that if you can't pay your bills on time, why should we lend you a business credit card of a $20,000, even at a $500 minimum, when it shows you can't even make your payments per month, or you're behind on your payments? You have a history of not paying making sure make your payments on time. So why should the bank or anybody take that chance on you? So if you don't have a 680 and above on all three consumer credit bureaus, forget it. You can work your way. I have a lot of people right now on credit repair because of that reason. They want those, and then secondly, they don't want a daily advance. Like, if you have less than a 600 credit score, you're not getting a weekly repayment. Not even a bi-weekly or monthly. That's out of reach initially. Until you pick up your credit, until you have more rapport, until you break the ice, until you show you can make these payments, until you show you can even use that money to increase your revenue. And so when we look at your accounts and you came back to reapply and we looked at another month of bank statements or whatever that is at that point, how much money are you making? How much are you keeping in your account? How much is sitting there? Oh, well, no, they can't still afford to make a weekly repayment. We got to keep them on what they are in. So why would we want to hinder that? But it is a credit line program. You can liquidate the cash out of those business credit cards. Multiple business credit cards you can get access to. You're welcome. You have an LLC with an EIN and biz bank account, okay, and low depositing. Yeah, I mean, you'll be limited. Anything underneath $3,000, a private lender will not take a chance on, unless you're working with those PayPal loan builder things that I'm not a fan of. I won't get into the specifics of why and all that right now, but Yeah, anything less than 3,000, a lot of them will not even look at your file. You got to have at least a minimum of 3,000 on your lowest month and at least 3 months of bank statements, and that's, you know, a 20 to 25% approval on your lowest month, majority. Excuse me. If you're doing 5,000 and above on your lowest month, then we can look at approval up to 75% of that. Excuse me. And so 15,000 and above, and that's, I know some lenders are different, but at that range, we can probably look up to 75% to 200% of that. So it just depends on what your depositing is and so forth. I would say, I'm not saying this just to turn you down. Don't think this is it, but I will have to, at least right now, and again, this isn't a no ever, but this is at the moment no, and I have things booked. And I don't just get on calls with people. Just so you know this. It's not because I don't know you or because I haven't communicated. We're doing that now. But at the same time, what I do is I just put a video up yesterday. I actually released it in the evening. I wasn't going to take it out of my Business Funding Mastery Academy course, but it's on YouTube now. So if you guys go to my YouTube channel, and it is one of the fastest growing channels, just so you guys know, I appreciate you guys for helping out if you've had some kind of contribution. But if I go to my channel right here, you'll see that the second video, actually, yeah, it's the second video. It'll be called Business Loan Process Up to 100 Million Plus from an Expert, and I put that in parentheses, expert business loan broker. And so what that video will show you for the next 16 or so minutes, my processes and why I do the things that I do. So if you guys go to the bio, if you guys want to get in touch with me, it's not always an initial phone call. Bio, link click, fill out that questionnaire at the very top for business funding and more. And there's also a real estate form. It should be the second one that I have positioned. So fill out those two if you have the two, and that's what it's for. And then I will evaluate them, analyze them, and give you a proper response back via email on your best funding option and options. But if you're not serious, don't do it. I don't want you just filling this out and going like, well, I'm just going to go find something or do it with someone else. And it's just like, you find somebody, they're always going to overpromise the majority and underdeliver for you. They may not sit with you. You might not get the best lender, the maximum amount of financing. They don't break it down for you like they should, and you're caught blindsided wondering, oh man, I wish I was told this before I went into an application. And there's a lot more having your credit shopped. But right now, as I'm saying that, I have an individual, Sean, if you're in here watching, I have received your questionnaire form, and that's exactly what I'm speaking to. Is if you want to get in touch with me and you're working with the best, you fill out that questionnaire, no questions asked. And when it lands in my email, I'll take time to give it a response back, and I'll show you your best funding option and options thoroughly broken down. And you can get started on that email, literally. You can respond back with any questions. You might have my mobile number, my business number, whatever that is. And there's other means of communicating, but most people, they want to call. And at some points, it makes sense for the amount you're probably getting. But in a lot of cases, the reason why I don't do it with certain people is because of that energy and time. And it's like, I don't want to be doing this. I don't want friction. I don't want that resistance. I'm sorry. But you should be the same way. You should feel like, okay, I get to know this guy. He is legitimate, and I'll show it to you. I'll show up. But will you show up? That's another question. So when I send you something, you're not going to show up. Majority of people that don't show up because they're afraid of commitment. They're afraid of hearing something that they believe they should be getting but isn't entirely true. You are most welcome, James. No, I hear you. Thank you for stating that you are, so I don't have to sit here as well. And it goes without being said, you're serious about getting financing. Now it's a question of when, where, will you, how. That I can help you with. And like an individual here says, they need funds. And how fast do they need them? They need them ASAP. And what industry they're in? Okay, they need them for that industry. But they need it for working capital. It's not a real estate investment. But with their minimum, what they're doing, they're not going to get anywhere close to that amount they're looking for. Unless they have a property, they're looking for a cash out refinance, whatever they're trying to do there. But they're limited. And they could raise their credit score. If they raise their credit score to what I said they should raise it to, 680, better 700, we're going to position them for a personal/startup loan. And they have to have still the annual revenue of $50,000 verifiable by personal and or pay stubs. And if they have that, we can get them a range, probably close enough to that $50,000 if it makes sense, as long as their credit looks clean. Otherwise, you're going to be nickel and diming, looking for grant opportunity after grant opportunities. Each one of you are not fixing the major cause. The diagnosis is fixing your credit, differentiating your personal and business. Once I work on my credit, guess what I'm doing next? I'm going to get access to my business credit. I'm going to start building that with vendor credit. And then I'm going to start getting those business credit cards if I didn't already get them, and leverage my personal credit to get them. Now, like the other day, I have an individual who got about $22,000 in total with just 2 cards, 14 and another one a little bit less. But it's like, you got that money now. How do you choose to use it? Well, it wasn't all that I wanted, but they're going to come back and they're going to apply with me in January for a personal loan. This isn't breaking news, guys. This is just thinking outside the box and saying, okay, well, I can't get a loan, so what are my alternatives? Grant opportunities, family and friends, crowdfunding. I'm going to go to a bank, and you know what I'm going to do there? No. But be very careful about what you do. If they're in your personal account, yeah, there's only one lender that's going to look at your file, literally in the whole industry, and I work with them day in and day out. Even if you have 20,000, whatever it is, 30,000 a month, guys, you're doing 100,000. You're not getting that lender or those lenders looking at you. You're gonna get a lender that only looks at personal checking accounts. They don't have to look at your credit. Credit's not really a requirement for a lot of these, but they're gonna look at your personal account and go, you don't have a business checking account. And when you get a business checking account, don't think you just transfer your personal to your business checking. You got to wait at least 3 months or so, come back and reapply once everything is being deposited directly in that business checking account. If you're transferring from multiple business checking accounts, sometimes it's harder to verify, so the lender thinks that you're manipulating your bank statements, whether you think so or not. Sometimes we can verify that and have to pull up the other accounts, but you got to be cautious. So prepayment discounts, let me get into that and then I'll come back to the comments. So, and I already spoke about the 0% interest, more or less. So it depends on each case on the amount of financing you get. And I have my document just so I make sure that I don't miss a beat with a few examples, but we're going to kind of go over that a little bit and say, well, if you're an A paper, and then there's different categories. So you're an A paper client, that's the top tier, tier 1, top tier, however you call it. And so A tier paper, you're going to get better prepayment discounts, early payment discounts. You can call them either thing. It's not a prepayment penalty for paying it off early. Most don't have that in certain spaces. Others do. Depends on the service and what is displayed. But with an A-tier lender or with an A-tier client as well, that's an A-tier client that has exceptional revenue. They're like not fluctuating. They have strong credit. Their time in business, their industry is also going to help them and more. And we go, hey, we can get them somewhere between 20 to 25, 20 to 30, 35%, 20 to 40% in certain circumstances, and even more. And we go, okay, we're going to add on a payment discount for the 90 days or 120 days or however, when you decide you pay it off early in that time frame. And we go, we give you about 25% of an early payment discount on top of everything added, the principal and the interest. Sometimes we cover the total cost. Other ways we'll cover a percentage of the remaining accruing interest, and we'll help save you money on that. Just depends on how the lender positions it, as well as how much time you've had to pay and so forth. DM, you mean? Yes, I do. You guys can find me on Instagram, my bio, link click, Instagram icon, I think it's there. And then you guys can send me an email or a message. Does anybody have any questions before I get going? I guess while that's happening, just to quickly recap, you guys know why you guys don't get a weekly repayment or a monthly repayment? Because we see how much goes into your account and how much of that you get to keep in your account. And so that's why a lender doesn't necessarily always give you that monthly repayment. And it can actually hurt you more than it does any good because of that payment you have at the end of the month to make in a lump sum. If we did it weekly, we can keep track of things and how you're doing on a per day, per weekly basis. And if there's an adjustment we need to make, you can quickly make that. Like contractors, you don't get paid right away all the time. You're still waiting for that person to pay you. And if that money hasn't come into your account, like you're just like, oh man, I got a big payment I got to make at the end of the month. We can keep track of payments better on a weekly or on a daily. Micro payments are much better than having a macro payment at the end of the month. Does anybody have any questions? About 1 more minute. Thirty more seconds. I think I'll end it short. Thank you guys for tuning into this content. Please refer to the bio for all help and information. Links there to get started down below in the description if you're here on YouTube. Hopefully you got value out of this, and if you're a returning person, I greatly appreciate you for always coming back, as well as those of you who are new. I always do. You're not less than someone else. And not because they have better funding details than you doesn't mean that they're better than you. That's not what it comes down to. And like always, if you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and do so. Click that bell notification icon again if you're watching this on YouTube, so you don't miss any future video content I will be coming out with, updating you guys on the market today, prime rates, type of repayments, what to expect from different services and lenders, and where you can fit in with those, each and every one of them. And at the end of the day, if it's something that is drawing you back, you got to take a look at yourself in the mirror and ask, is my character or my flaws, do I have any? Are they getting in the way from me getting committed? And just something as simple as giving feedback, that is a commitment issue if that's not being shown. Share it with others who you feel will get value out of this. It can be a complete stranger, a friend, or a family member, but you know you made a difference. And don't forget to like it if you haven't, and if I haven't said that. Oh, we have a few people in here. So let me answer these here. And again, like I said, if there's people who are commenting, I won't necessarily get going right away. Sometimes I do. Hi, Elaine. I'm doing good. How are you doing? I guess I'll leave it open for a little bit. Why is that? Is it a funding thing? Elaine, does your last name start with is it a B or a D? I just want to make sure I have this correctly. Okay, I think I have it right here. With Sammy D's, right? I get a lot of Elaine's. Like, I've had a couple submissions recently with the same name. I just want to make sure I have everything accordingly. So here, let me show you something. Yeah, I'll respond back to it here soon. Apologize for not responding back earlier too. Here, let me put this on my list. I'm gonna have to bring it back up. So if that were the case, right, with Sammy's, just want to make sure I have everything correctly here. If this is it, then, I mean, this was submitted again, like in July. I'd have to ask you to submit it again. I know what you're looking for. If that has changed, you'll have to put it into the form. But, I mean, there are a few loan scenarios we can look at. If it were equipment, then, you know, because you have strong credit, it makes it better. But it's not helping with, you know, the lowered amount per month. So you might get somewhere evenly that you'd have to put a down payment for the equipment that you need. Because leveraging your revenue, if you had collateral, that's another thing. But perhaps we'll look at a personal loan. That could help if everything adds up because of the time in business being where it is, and now we're in, you know, we're past the 6 months. But yeah, there are a few scenarios that I'll go ahead and send your way to show you. Does anybody else have any questions? If you're just joining me, by the way, you guys missed the whole thing in the beginning. I have already finished. I spoke about the prime rates, SBA loans. I spoke about 0% interest for 6 to 18 months. I spoke about a few loan scenarios when it comes to things. I was looking here for, with Elaine on her details just to make sure I have everything and so forth. Here, actually, let me look at this first. I'll come to the comments in a moment. Let me just make sure I have this from Elaine. And Elaine, just let me know if you're in here, if that was you who submitted that with Sammy D's. Just want to make sure I have the right individual here, and then I'll come back. Again, we're at the end of the video. I already talked about everything. I even got into a little bit of real estate. I didn't want to segment into that topic way too much. But as I'm looking through this, I'll come back to the comments in just a moment. I want to make sure this information looks right for her. Looks right so far. 1 second. Okay, yeah, that looks right. Okay. Now let me come over here. That's a good question. What collateral, Max, welcome in, is required for a 250 fix and flip loan? So that'll vary. How much experience do you have in the industry? That's primarily where I go on. Experience, I would say over credit. Your credit definitely needs to be high enough for us to look at it. Looking at Elaine's details once more here. Yeah, okay. But you have to have strong credit. I would say in this market, at a minimum, doesn't really help. You could get in with like the 650 and have a better loan to cost, loan to value, all these numbers. When it comes to fix and flips, again, it varies. With other type of real estate, as we know, it could be somewhere between 20 to 40% down, especially that's true when it comes to CRE loans. That's usually where you see that percentage. It can be a bit less for the fix and flip. But all numbers put together, appraisal and stuff like that, I can't give you an exact number. But with a 700 credit score, now I see that second sentence, then yeah, that'll definitely help. With 2 years, it just depends on how many fix and flips you've done, what collateral would be required. I mean, we have to see what you have. And not a lot of the time will we have to ask for collateral. What liquid assets do you have? What have you done in the past? Those are just a few of the things that we look at. I hope that answers your question. And again, that's a rounded question. I can't get you an exact number. I can give you estimates and predicaments, but I can't tell you, hey, if you have this, just know you're going to have a better chance with a 700 credit score, 2 years in business, and you have more experience underneath your belt. That'll definitely help. And the size that you've done in the past, that always makes a difference. I think that's the biggest difference when I've had all these deals going through is the amount, the size of those amounts, but it also reflects, again, back to a few of those things you just mentioned right there. And I get these things done over like certain quotes. I can't, like I said, I can't give you the exact number until I have like a soft look and I have numbers from the underwriter pre-underwriting it themselves, not myself, because I do that too. I can't say that on a 250,000 if there wouldn't even be any kind of collateral needed. Yes, we'd like to see how many fix and flips or what kind of real estate experience have you had, liquid assets, what do you have on the table. If you have more cash, because that's a huge want from a lender, enough cash flow to help, you're bartering and doing a few things, that definitely is going to give you a lot more space. I've seen that. You're most welcome. And again, I can give you like numbers. And if I go through some of these questionnaires that I submitted back to people on real estate fix and flips, and I do all of these, I do rental investment, commercial property, I have a lot of those. Land deals I've done, ground up construction, and then turn them into a commercial property mortgage, helping people save more money on their mortgages, but a lot more things that are on the table on loan to values, your interest rates. So until I have that questionnaire form, if you're interested in it, usually $100,000 minimum property value. You don't want to go like, if it's 98, like we're gonna have to do the appraisal just to make sure it's close enough. If it's like by 10,000 less, sometimes we can't take that. So usually every lender looks at least 100,000. Some of them will look at 150,000. I had one the other day at 98,000 that was able to go through because of the lender being able to work with them and in my partnership with them. So some other lenders, they would have said it's too cutting close to the line. We're not going to have any kind of return on this over the time we give them. And so they weren't wanting to work with it. And then another one came in and they said, oh, yeah, actually we can work with this and we'll do it for them. Good question. I love these questions, Big Tommy. Welcome in. What are your needs? Like, I could tell you, yeah, obviously set up a trust, but like, what are your needs now? What will they be in the future? And that's a very general answer. Like, I get it. Like, I don't know your specific situation. Like, you work your way into that trust and you're at that position and it's going to be a better benefit. It's somewhat similar to getting a loan. Like, if that benefit exceeds all else, like you look at it and you go, okay, what would it be like in a shorter term? What would it look like in a longer term? That's your decision to make. But everybody's in a different part. And so someone would say, I'm going to hold off on that until I get to a certain amount for each property. And then somebody else would be more like, I have a lot underneath my belt and their experience and the amount for each property. So it's a lot of if and or. It's kind of like a scientific experiment. I can't just give you a one-way answer on that. And there's more we can talk about on this on the back end. But again, like I said, I see the little TikTok thing that comes up and it says some comments in the live were filtered to protect the community's experience. I don't know what that means, but TikTok is I guess I don't want to get into the things because then they will, I don't know, I bet they're watching. So I guess I can't express those things, but who knows where TikTok will be, if it'll be something that the U.S. has access to next year. That's all I'll mention. I won't say anything more. But during the administration we have, and where we're leaning to because of privacy, and we don't want, some things happening. So I don't want to go on that topic. Yeah, you could. But going back to that whole thing on, if you guys missed it, I don't want to recap again, but I'll replay this. It'll be on the YouTube channel. You guys can hear me more there. If you haven't taken part of my channel yet, just know that I discuss real estate. I also talk a lot about business loans. I'll come to that comment in a moment. But you need to have bank statements, of course. But I talk about all things real estate, but more a lot of the time you'll hear me speaking about business loans in different businesses for all types of industries, helping out a lot of people in the construction, the contractors of different contracting fields, manufacturing, trucking, retail, medical equipment, any kind of health and wellness, restaurants, retail, e-commerce, any kind of digital marketing field, a lot of different spaces. And what I'm seeing from each and every industry right now is like the cost of everything has just gone up. And so when you look at the depositing for every person, you need bank statements to get approved. Why you keep saying no docs? That's not true, bro. I'm just saying. And so what service are you referring to? Can you please justify that? I have people who come to me and they hear something and they go, oh, that's not true. This isn't how it works. I wouldn't get approved for that. But it's a little bit different than what they're thinking. So I just want to know to what program. Is it the credit line program? Are you talking about the personal/startup loan program? The credit line program? If it's a startup/personal loan, you didn't answer my question. But if it's a personal/startup loan, see, that's the part of this, guys. You guys need to listen. Because a lot of people, they come in here with this kind of rage and they don't know what they're talking. Like, I'm not saying you don't know exactly, but I'm asking you a question on specifically what type of service that is, and there's no answer. So before you come in here heated with your caps locks, I'm not sure if you did it on purpose and calling me a bro, but I'm not that. And secondly, each person is different. What you have, if you don't have those bank statements, they don't always have to be supplied. Personal statements. Well, I don't have those personal. What are you doing then? What do you mean you don't have personal statements? You don't have an account where we can look at your bank statements or anything? So you're just the opposite of everybody else. Some people in here are probably like smirking and laughing at that because it's true. It's like, what did you expect? Like, that's the point. It's verifiable by tax returns. If we didn't break it down to bank statements, okay. Do you have verifiable personal tax returns? 1 year. Sometimes we look at 1 to 2, 1 to 3 years. We have to look at it a little bit more extensively over a period. Okay? No. Do I have pay stubs? W-2 wages. What do you have? Are you the employer? Are you the employee? So every person in this is kind of like, what do you mean? Like, how can we lend you money if you can't show us any kind of proof that you're making money? What do you mean? So it's no different if you're getting a business loan as a non-startup, or you're barely quote-unquote on that startup phase and you only had 3 months in business. What do you mean? We're not asking for a tax return. We're looking at your bank statements. We're just seeing what you're doing month to month. Okay, you were at default. You have a judgment in place. You have overdrafts, chargebacks, non-sufficient fund days, more than 5. You have all of these negative days. You're withdrawing more out of your account that's not even there. So when people get upset when they hear something, it's because they don't listen. That's a different program, man. You're not listening. And so I said the personal/startup loan. I didn't say credit line hybrid, did I? I didn't say anything about a credit line hybrid because that's a different program. That they usually look at no docs for those types of services. It's no different. Like if you're looking at getting these business credit cards, sometimes they'll ask for a little bit, but they're not going to ask for your financial bank statements. They're not going to ask for your 3 months. Give me a tax return on this, on that. They won't normally ask for you for that. If they ever needed anything at a minimum, they're going to probably look at a 1 or 2 statements, but they're not going to look at it too entirely because they're basing it off of credit. It's a credit program. There's a credit program and then there's loan programs. So that's what I'm saying. You don't have a point to make there. I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm just saying that, like, can anybody else in here agree with me on that? You may not understand the service, but I'm speaking general. Like, it's common sense when people ask something. Like, when people ask me a question on that, I don't want to say anything bad. I don't want to say anything bad because it just, like, most people, they don't want to listen to. 1 second. I got an email here from a lender. This is what I was expecting to come in. Okay. Yeah, I just got some feedback from them. Yeah, the hate is real here, guys. Like, I'm telling you, like, that person I don't even have to speak to understand. Like, I get we get frustrated, but we shouldn't just assume, or we shouldn't just attack somebody. We should question, hey, you said there was no documentation on this personal/startup loan. Oh, hey, you said there was no documentation on this credit line program, which for, like, the majority of the time there really isn't. And hey, you said there was no clarification, and I was asking them for clarification, and they never brought that to the table. So when I'm a very, like, with me, things just don't slide like that. And I'm a very punctual person, so I catch people when they bring me something, and I go, like, I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it. Like, that's not my character to announce that. I'm an introvert, so I just want to, like, I don't want to do that. But sometimes people step up like that, and they feel like you don't always know what you're saying. Let's just say that. If everything is in order, documentation, everything needed, I won't go into the docs right now. You probably know more or less if you have had enough experience doing this. You know what would be collected. And I look at this stuff too before it goes to the lender. Like, I pre-underwrite stuff myself as much as I can. Obviously, without looking at the whole property, it's different. But sending out somebody out there to look at it. If you have all docs, everything that's needed, generally in this market, I would have said some time ago, like, very fast in 2 weeks, but it could be about, the last one was about 3.5 weeks. And it's because they had all documents in order. They just had to look extensively at the property. And they had to look at things for probably renovation, rehab costs, some things in the underwriting with their credit. We were trying to be more lenient on. Cash flowing, some things that we look at, but it could be somewhere between 2 to 4 weeks, and that's actually rather quickly. And that's kind of like a time frame that you would expect with a personal loan. Like, you could even use a personal loan if you ever needed a down payment. That's another way to look at it. If you can use your personal income, your pay stubs, whatever that is, to get you a down payment, I work those things through every single time. And I have a lot of people who have their personal loans right now. Like, they already got it. I have feedback from my underwriters from some. I sent them the information. But you have to have, like, a crisp, clean credit profile. It's a little bit more lenient on the real estate side because you have that experience already doing those flips and other real estate investments. That's why they give you guys that. And that's why there's that loan to cost, loan to value, and then there's those cushions for that. It's not just credit, it's experience and property, new, old property, whatever it is. There's a lot of things. Welcome in. How are you doing? Finished the SBA. I spoke about that earlier today. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. I was going to leave you guys like an hour ago, but Miss Elaine here, if you're in here watching, appreciate you. You guys got to give her a round of applause because she dropped in, like, literally, like, I am not kidding you, like 1 second. I was about to say my goodbyes. She says hi, and I tried helping her out. And that's why I'm here now at this moment, right? So the SBA, yeah, what I would do, if you haven't yet, and if you already have, by the way, and I may have already responded back to you. So in the bio for everybody in here, getting in contact with me, and you'll know this because I've said it to you, In the bio, there's a questionnaire form. There's one for business financing and one for real estate financing. Sometimes the two intermix because you have a business that's cash flowing enough to use to get business working capital. And then the other one, you're using that as a down payment towards that, like people do for an equipment loan specifically. I have a lot of people doing that, by the way. And so there's those two forms. There's more underneath that, but those two are the primary ones. I think the third one is my story. If you guys want to learn more about me, like why I'm different, why would I matter, why can I resonate with you? Just the other day, I didn't bring it. I don't think I brought it up in that story, but I almost cried yesterday, guys, because I'm not a sensitive person. I'm thick-skinned, but it's like I started getting my thoughts into my dog, and I said it to everybody. I wasn't gonna have those thoughts, and I didn't think those thoughts were coming through. I guess he was just channeling it through me. But I had my dog who passed away in February, and he was my everything, guys. Like my everything. My brother. I have a younger brother now, but he was my dog brother. And if you guys ever have a relationship with a dog, sometimes I ask myself, why did I get so close to him? Because I wouldn't want to feel like this. And I almost shed some tears on screen. I had to actually end the video a little early. But dude, it brought up he was a peekapoo, a little white peekapoo, like kind of a rare dog. You don't really see a mix of that. Very nice, very family oriented. My everything. Saw my vulnerabilities, and I took care of him till the last second. At 15 years old, when he passed, and he couldn't breathe anymore, I had to feed him through one of those syringes. Had to give him bone broth, and taking care of him. And the last day, I didn't know we were gonna put him down that day, and so I stood with him and I sat with him near the window on my chair, here comforting them and just telling them. And I cried like a freaking whale. And I told him, hey, it's okay. My grandma and my grandpa are up there. They'll be watching over you. And say hi to them for me. And one day I'll be there with you. And literally before that, he would cry out because he was in pain. And he had kidney disease, last stage of kidney disease. And so it was a long turn of events. And yeah, I don't think I'd be talking about that. But SBA loan, guys, that will be there in the bio as well. If you guys fill out that questionnaire, you guys can learn more. And if you fill out your details, then I will be able to evaluate those and analyze them and give you a proper response back via email on your best funding option and options, and they're thoroughly broken down. So does anybody else have any questions? Oh, yeah, real estate. And so I don't get on phone calls with people all the time. Why? Well, because for one, not because I'm an introvert, because I'm a very systematic, mathematical oriented person, and a lot of people just pretend. A lot of people are pretenders, and there are people who are action takers, and I'm not these days willing to take that phone call, because most of them just end up evaporating, disassociating. They end up going somewhere else. And when I had the best, given them the best, and even the best lender underwriters, it's like they're just kind of nickel and diming, and they're just trying to feel out the market, and I get that. But at the same time, this is why I don't get on phone calls with people, because like I told the guy the other day, he went silent. I was waiting for his call. And if you were in here with me yesterday, I kept announcing it. He was supposed to call me back in an hour. I get things change, but at least give me a heads up. He calls me during the live here. I wasn't going to hang up for him. You guys were important for me at the time. Not that person calling me. And so I gave them time afterwards. I actually went in 30 minutes after. I went to go get a quick snack, relaxed. They were on a drive home. And so I explained to them everything. And they were looking for a loan. And they weren't going to get the amount they were looking for. They're probably going to be shy by 15 to 20,000. And they don't have a good credit score. They were less than a 600 credit. They were probably way less in the 500s, less than 550, let's just say that. And so I don't like to be a guy who talks. Honestly, I don't, as an introvert. But I laid the smack down, and it got raw. It was raw and uncut truth. And I spoke for a good 5 minutes before I let him say a word. And I told him everything, and he was very nice. There was never anything wrong, on a phone call. It just was he kind of had that. You could hear that pause in somebody where they're like, damn. And then, damn, I realized, this isn't what I want to do. And so after telling them everything, look, you're not getting a weekly repayment. You're likely going to, if you can take the money you can use now, can you put it to work? and then come back and get more after 50% of the balance has been paid off. You come back and get more. Here's your early payoff discounts if you pay this off in the amount of time you do. Okay. Now, they were more concerned with a daily. Now, the problem, like I've said in general, is people don't understand their finances. I think real estate investors, and I got to applaud you guys because you guys know your finances more than like a traditional business owner does. Because you're seeing that come in and out more frequently. You have to have those numbers even more accurate. So you're different in a sense from a traditional business owner. Us entrepreneurs, and I'm an entrepreneur here, I have other businesses that I run. This is my focus right now. And so I'm always taking a look every week at my numbers. Every 2 weeks. I'm not letting a week go by where I'm not looking at my numbers. And if I have to sit down with a CPA that I have a great connection with, I'll go ahead and have a conversation with and say, hey, these were my sales. This is what I generated. These were my profit margins for the month. I made my goal. I increased it by 5% here. Now, was it a struggle to make it to that 5% line? Now, why was it a struggle? And I look back at everything and go, I know why. It's because my overhead over here became a little bit higher and I had to take that hit. And then I didn't get paid early here. I had people paying me on terms. And so why a business owner sometimes thinks I can't afford a daily repayment isn't because it's because they don't trust themselves. And why there's a deeper issue. Like I will annihilate and figure out what that problem is because I'm an entrepreneur. We ask questions. So when people ask me, well, I wanted to do this to make money, but why did you want to do it? Because I wanted to have more money. No, why did you do it? Because internally, then you reach out and you ask and you say those things. But why did you end up doing that? It's like you're asking a kid sometimes, like, Charlie, why did you do that? Like, you want to know the answer. You want to hear where the problem resonated from. It was just a symptom. Okay, now I know the bigger problem. That's the diagnosis. That's what led them to do this. So I got to correct that before it gets any worse. And so it could be something small. It could be something big. But as a parent, if you don't figure that out and you let your kids do what they want to do, if that's your structure, that's fine. But I'm different. And so what you're saying here, you agree as an real estate investor, REI, excuse me, I have to make sure I'm not losing money. Yeah, and like any kind of business owner too, it's the same thing. But yeah, like what you're doing in real estate as opposed to a traditional business loan, it's different. It's a big difference, night and day. Every expense is, double checked. You have to before the offer is then made. Yeah, you do. It has to be done way before. Actually, I got to get back to one of my real estate investor friends. But at the same time, I'm not giving them that. Like, he wasn't there like weeks and weeks ago. I don't know where he went. So like they expect me to give them a call sometimes, and I go, well, even if I'm that close to you, sometimes I won't give it to you because it's just not. Like, I don't want to be pulled in one direction and then pulled in another direction. You disappeared again for another month or two, whatever you did, and there was no communication. And it's just like I don't know about that. So yes, every expense is then double checked before the offer is made. Yeah. And this is what we're doing. This is what our underwriters are always doing. We're double checking everything. We're seeing how much you can actually afford. So it's a blessing in disguise when you double check everything. Even if it takes a little bit more effort, do it. You got to run the numbers again, go back. Do it another day. Visit it again the next day. But don't put it aside. And if you're the person who's just like doing all the work in your business, get somebody else, get a lady, get a gentleman, somebody who can take care of your finances. Because if you can't and you come to get a loan and you go, well, I'm nickel and diming, I don't want this daily repayment, and it's because there's a bigger issue. You don't trust yourself, but the issue of that is because you don't know your finances. And if you don't know your finances, why don't you know your finances? It's because I'm on the field, I'm always doing the work, or I had a setback, I'm discouraged because I don't know where my business will be in 4 months from now. So there's the bigger issue. So how do we correct that? Does anybody else have any questions before I go? Hopefully I've helped you guys answer your questions. Some of them are more general because of the it's like a credit, it's like personal credit. Like I can't answer that here, or I can't because it's your situation is different than someone else's. So what you specifically have has to be disputed, has to be looked at differently. Like the other day, I had a friend go into bank, to get Chase Business credit card, and they got it because of me. I helped them out, and they had their real estate documents, and she's going through her classes right now, extra real estate stuff, and if she needed to supply that information like financials and stuff, she had it ready. And so I said, yeah, I think it would be in your best interest to walk into a bank and show. They might not like take the plan and look at it because there weren't concrete details on a property or any of that, but it would help them just to know, like, okay, if you had this much in about 3, 4, 5 months, you're looking to actually have concrete numbers. We can try to get you a limit increase as long as you're making the payments on all of this on time. Appreciate you. Thank you. Any more questions? One more minute. Oh, one thing I want to make mention. I have another channel that I opened, but it is to help out other like broker, agent, referral partners out there. Not all of my video content is publicly released because it's more catered to those who are a member. I only want to show them to, at least right now. Sometimes I do put things out publicly. But if you see my face out there on a different video, like business loan broker, rock stars, or something like that, that's because I'm trying to help other people understand the space that could use that. Thirty more seconds. What is the best score to get into a Wells Fargo business credit card? So it'll vary. I mean, you could get in like with the 650. The higher tier cards, honestly, if you don't have a 680 and above, 700 is realistically what they're looking at. But yeah, there are some cards you can get in with a lowered amount, even in unsecured. If you secure it, that may be your route if you're questioning your credit being low. But I mean, you don't have to do that. It's up to you. I don't have it like right now on my screen. I've given it to people. You could actually do a quick search for Wells Fargo online, and then you can get their contact number, their customer service line. Yeah, they do. So you can't work with Chase? I know that's happened before to me. So I know the 5 inquiry rule from Chase. I don't want to get into the conversation of what all that is here right now. But yeah, Chase is very strict. There's a reason why they're a tier 1 bank. They're number 1 on the list, I would say. And, that's one thing. That's a testament to them. They want to retain more people and making sure that they use their stuff. But yeah, Wells Fargo is one you want to look at. And it's a thing you want to do too, is you don't want to spread yourself thin. You want to have from different accounts. You don't want to just limit yourself to one bank. It's like when you have, you can have multiple relationships with multiple banks, multiple business checking accounts. And that serves a purpose for another topic. But yeah, that's another advantage. If that's what you've done already, I don't want to get into the specifics of doing all that with multiple banks. But yeah, Chase has that 5 inquiry rule. But I'm telling you, when you get in with Chase and everything looks clean, man, can you get those cards? And how much you can get them for, whether it's just 50 or more, and you combine a few. But you shouldn't spread yourself thin. You should have multiple cards because of the fact too that you get like the 2.5% cash back or whatever you get in terms of rewards, travel rewards. What we fail to realize isn't that that the amount that we can get is what we look at, as opposed to what could be our reward for using that card. So always think about the benefits too. Don't just think about like, I only got 10,000. Yeah, but your benefit to using this. And then if you use it over and over, like, you're already in. And the banks want you to use your line, so make sure you're using it as much as you can. So yeah, that's what I would do. I said this to someone the other day. Well, they went into Chase, but they were a real estate investor, and they took their everything, their documentation, just to see if they would revise her plans for what she has in the future, and they were a bit helpful. But they look at other things, not just on her plan. They look, I mean, of course, her credit. So you could walk in to the bank and do it in person. You could do it online, and you could have an instant approval in 24 to 72 hours or so. You can hear back from them, even a little bit sooner. But that's up to you, and if you already have done it that way, then maybe it makes most sense, and you kind of know what you're going to expect. I've done it before because I knew what to expect, but yeah, it's different for each person. Does anybody else have any questions before I get going? I have to go do some Christmas shopping later. Yeah, that'll turn you down right away when they see that. Yeah, at that point, it isn't your credit. It isn't even if you have like an 800 credit. The 5 inquiry rule, the rule from Chase, excuse me. That's what'll get you. And it's a good thing. They're actually helping you. Wells Fargo, Chase, got a few of those and a few other ones. You can use American Express if you qualify for that one. Their gold card, blue cash card. But I won't get into the specifics of each and every one of these cards, guys, right now, because we're kind of at the end of the video. And if you guys want to learn more about these kinds of credit cards, like Wells Fargo, I have a video I already made on all this. And I think it's in the bio. You may be able to access it from there. Hey, personal, yeah. But yeah, that's really good. Amex Platinum Personal. How are you liking that one? Have you used it enough, or have you used it enough to reap the rewards of it? But I get a lot of good feedback from that as well. And that video, again, it's in the bio. Should be 0% for 6 to 18 months. But I also send it as a form of a questionnaire. So if I go to my YouTube channel and I type in business credit cards, and I can type in business credit cards at 0% interest for 6 to 18 months, then that will then bring up the video. You guys can learn more about this. And I bring about Amex cards, more on the business side though, and the amount you could get for those. There are so many of them, and that video will cover it. No preset, yeah, no preset spending, yeah, seen that. But that's what I would do. Actually, let me look it up right now just to make sure. I've made a couple of those videos, and it wasn't too long ago. There it is. So it was done on the 14th of November that I published it. And it says here how to get business credit cards at 0% interest for 6 to 18 months and up to $150,000. And then I put in question without SSN. And I get into the intricacy of it. I won't do it. Excuse me. I won't do it all here. I could. But I already have a video there. I don't want to. Like, I'm at the end of this video. So if you guys want to see that, excuse me. It's up to date with the market today. So how to get business credit cards at 0% interest. You can find me there. And you'll be able to see all those different credit cards that I included. I included a few of the Chase cards, and I walk you guys through the sites just as a guideline, just to show you guys. And then a few pointers. I give you guys expert tips on how to use these cards. You are most welcome. Anybody else have questions? I'm going to be on LinkedIn right now. 1 second. Anybody else have questions? If you guys can hear that, that's my stomach speaking. All right, let's see. I'm gonna do some things on LinkedIn here. Okay, I think that's where I'm going to end the video. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. And like always, please go to the bio, look for all the information, description, and then all else you'll learn from there. And fill out that questionnaire if you haven't, and so much more. Okay, talk to you guys soon.